All right, I posted a video about a week ago today being I think 18th or 19th, in regards to a 36-yard zero being superior to other zeros, and I guess this is a little bit more touchy of a subject than I really expected, so I kind of wanted to shoot a video on it and kind of explain what I was talking about there. Now, a lot of guys started chiming in like, oh, there's different zeros for different applications, yada, 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 yada. No shit. If you're running Mark 262 77 grain ammo, obviously a 100, 200 yard zero is going to be a little bit better. But this is directly in premise to your carbines with guys running red dots, be it an Aimpoint EOTech, Holosun 6, any kind of other red dots like that. This is directly in reference to those guys running ammunitions like M193 ball or any of your other standard 55 or 62 grain ammo. So keep in mind that that is the whole premise behind my mentioning that type of zero, which is the reason I was running an 11.5-inch carbine with a red dot, not something like this. Now in today's video, I'm going to be running a magnified optic because I want to take out as much of the human error as possible. Optics don't help you shoot better, they help you see better, and you can't shoot what you can't see. So that's the reason I'm going to go ahead and run with a red magnified optic over a red dot. I'm going to be running with a Leupold Mark IV. Right now it's 0 for 36, but I can dial it down. I think it's 3 clicks, and I'm 0 for 200 yards. So go ahead and get that part out of the way. Now the barrel I'm going to be running that's in this is a 16-inch Ruiner Arms Ultramatch barrel. So I'm trying to be as accurate as I possibly can, but I'm kind of running a worst case scenario ammunition wise and just using your regular old steel case 55 grain ammunition. This is a Monarch. Moving a little slower than 193, but when you start shooting higher velocity ammo like M193 5.56, it's going to tighten that group up just a little bit more for both rounds. 0 for 36 at 300 yards. This gun, the bullet drops about 8 inches to the target, and 0 for 200 it drops about 12 inches. Now a lot of guys say, oh well, I'd rather run a 200 yard zero because it's tighter out to 200 yards. Yeah, by about an inch, and that inch difference that you're actually getting is at the 100 yard line. You're hitting about 1.5 inches high, where you're hitting like I want to say like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch high at 100 yards for the 200 yard zero. So I'd rather have that difference at closer ranges, especially if I'm going to be running ball ammunition, because the standard deviation on this ball ammunition is a lot higher, as well as your extreme spread. So the ammunition is not as accurate at longer distances. Best way to explain that is, say you've got a guy running a match rifle, and he's got a gun that shoots a 1/4 inch at 100 yards, but he's got a standard deviation of like 25. Well, you push that gun out to 500 yards, you're not shooting 1/4 MOA groups anymore. That group's going to open way the hell up. If you got a guy that's running 1 MOA that has like a 3 or 4 standard deviation, 500 yards, your group's going to be tighter because your ammo's more consistent. Velocities are a whole lot closer together, so keep that in mind as well. But what I've got set up, I've got targets at 1, 2, 3, and even 400 yards. Going to go ahead and shoot 400 as well.
All right, first up is going to be the 36-yard zero. Going to be shooting 100, 200, 300, and then going to be trying for 400 as well. Now for 4 on both of these, I'm going to have to hold higher. It's going to be a little less for the 300 though, obviously. For the 36-yard zero, it's going to be a little less because obviously adjustments are a little bit higher up in the optic for 0 for 36 yards. So let's go ahead and see how this tracks. No dialing at all through any of these for the 36 and 200 yard zero. I'm just going to be holding the center of my heart that I painted on all the targets, except for the 100, just a dot. All right, now for the 200. All right, now the 3. All right, next up, the 200 yard zero. Now you'll notice with the 400 for the last one, I did not connect. Didn't even take pictures while I was down there because the target's clean. Reason for that being, these targets are 20 inches tall, and I was holding right at the center of the face, and the drop for 400 yards with a 36 yard zero is 28 inches. So I was going about probably 10 inches under the target, hitting about knee level. So that's why I didn't hit here. The 200 yard zero, it's a little bit more drop than 400. It's 33 inches. At least this is what the ballistic calculator is giving me. I have no reason to doubt that calculator. It's been really accurate in the past. But yeah, we'll go ahead and shoot the this zero for 200 yards now. Zero to be dead on 200 yards. I'll go ahead and do the same string of fire, 100, 200, 300, and 400, and go ahead and see where it is impacting. So first up, 100 yards. All right, no surprise there. Pretty much perfect horizontally, or vertically rather, with the zero. Horizontal was off. I threw one a little bit right, but again, that's the inconsistency of this ammunition that I'm using, which again is why I would rather have the deviation at this distance instead of out further, which this cartridge does do, even in this rifle, which normally with Mark 262 shoots about a 2-inch group at 400 yards. So let's go ahead and go to the 200 yard now. All right, now again, no hold. Go ahead and go to the 300 yard line. Just holding at the heart pin of the target. Didn't even connect. I think that last one hit. It just barely nicked the bottom, I believe. So there's that. And again, I'm not being biased towards a cert zero or anything. That's just kind of how the zeros work.
All right, and the results were in. Just got done running the shooting portion of this video, shooting out to 1, 2, and 300, and attempting 400 yards. The 400, I didn't even bother annotating it in because looking back on it now, I didn't look prior to the shooting for 36 yard. I didn't look at prior what the drop would be, but turns out it's about 28 inches. The targets are 20 inches tall, so even aiming at the head, which is what I was doing for both of these shooting portions, for both the 36 and 200, it was still dropping below the bottom edge of the plate. For the 36, it was dropped 28 inches at 400 yards for the 36 yard zero, so that would have put me 7-8 inches below, or 8 or 9 inches below the bottom of the target. And then for the 200, it was a 33 inch drop, so that'll put me about 11 inches below the bottom of the target, so I didn't even bother annotating that in. But looking over, you guys should have seen by now the footage of what the targets look like at the different distances. Out to 200 yards, the zeros, like I mentioned before, pretty much mimicked each other. You might have been, you were a little bit higher at 100 yards, which again, going back to standard deviations, I'd rather that difference be closer than further. But it's where you get out to 300 yards, the 200 yard zero really started to tell on you, because that bullet has risen, met its apex, started to fall, and by 200 yards it was reaching the low end of where it was falling to, so you would have had to hold higher in order to get hits on target. And that is the whole reason behind the 36 yard zero, is taking out the guesswork from your shooting and being able to just basically aim center mass in that target and out to 300 yards no matter what, with a carbine, start stacking rounds in there and hitting it, which I was able to do with the 36 yard zero. 300 yards, they all pretty much hit right there, right around where I was aiming at. 200 yard zero, I got a tape measure holding from, I got an X marking my hold point, and then I got a tape measure measuring down, and like I said in that ballistic calculator, it was right at 12 inches low from the center hold, and being it's those places with the size they were, I only managed to connect with one of them on the bottom, and then I painted, because I painted beforehand the target board. That way if a bullet hit the target board, I would be able to see, and I did manage to hit the target board with one of them as well. And another one, the third one, just went off target somewhere and hit the dirt behind it. So like I was saying before there, you got a significant more drop you're gonna have to hold if you decide to use a 200-yard zero. Now I know a lot of you guys are gonna come out and chime in, oh well, I'd rather be exactly accurate out to this distance, and then because I'll never be as a civilian shooting out of 300 yards. And yeah, maybe you will, maybe you aren't, but you got to keep in mind the whole premise behind the Second Amendment and why it's actually there. It's not there to go out and target shoot and sports shoot. It's there to defend the citizens from a tyrannical government, and hopefully that thing never happens in our lifetime. Hopefully it never happens. Hopefully we never have to use the Second Amendment for its true intention. But it's better to use a more effective zero to start with, because everybody I always take out to do long range shooting, I always tell them the key to accuracy is consistency, and it's a little bit more of a consistent zero out the distance because of the trajectory of a 223 or 5.56 bullet out to that distance. Now again, this is not in lieu to any 77 grain or any kind of matched ammunition. This is specifically in lieu to 55 grain or 62, and yes, it does work across the board with those bullet weights. You're going to be right in this area with your trajectory. It would be at Hornady, 55 grain Hornady, 60 grain Hornady, 62 grain or 64 grain gold dots, or any other 55 or 60, up to, I'd say 64, but usually it stays around 62, but up to that range for bullets, you're going to be in this same area. Now the group will open up just a hair. You will have a little bit more drop with your 60 whatever grain bullets. It's a lot more for the shooting out to 300 yards with a 200-yard zero than it is with the 36-yard zero shooting out to 300 yards. You got a lot more drop there, as we saw here. So shooting with 36-yard zero, zeroed for say a 64 grain gold dot, you might hit here instead of here like you did with the 55s out of that distance, where with the 200-yard zero, you're going to be hitting down at the knee level. You're going to have to hold up at the head. Now you can say, oh, well, I'll just hold the head. Really? You're shooting with a 2 mm red dot at 300 yards. You're going to aim at the guy's head. Maybe your eyesight's better than mine. I don't have the greatest eyesight in the world. But to you guys who are claiming that you're an instructor, I would just, now I am no instructor. I'm a Marine Corps vet. I did serve in the Marine Corps all the time as an 0311 for the infantry. And I do shoot a lot in my civilian time. I mean, I may not be quote-unquote instructor, but you don't have to be an instructor to know what you're talking about when it comes to shooting, especially if you're slinging this much ammo down range. I have my own personal playland down here, and I come out here and shoot every weekend, shoot tens of thousands of rounds a year out of these distances, and shoot what I'm talking about. So the results don't lie. You can try and argue them all you want, but the math's there, the math's in my favor. So take it or leave it for what it is. Somebody that whose opinion I valued a lot once told me that a wise man's always learning and that a fool knows everything. Being that meaning that you're willing to take anything somebody says for a grain of salt. And the guys who were trying to argue the point, which is moot by the way, they were trying to argue the point with me that a 200-yard zero is better. I come out here taking that as a grain of salt, never having shot a 200-yard zero in this capacity. I had shot out those distances, but I usually use this one here, and I kind of knew where it held, and it kind of had always worked for me. I had seen people shoot that far and did know that they had to hold over. Wasn't 100% sure quite how much, and particularly with this rifle as well. But I come out here thinking, hey, maybe this 200-yard zero might work a little bit better. But coming away from the results that I've witnessed here, it's really not. So take it or leave it, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to let you know when I have more videos coming out. If you have any questions, post them down in the comment section below. And until next time, happy shooting.